Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to MyS Focus Activity 4 to 5, Asking Questions. I'm Terry. I'm from the MyS Florence Via Baracca School, and I'm coming to you today with my co-teacher, Paul.
Hi, Terry. To another webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul, and I'm from Ireland. And like Terry, we both work in Via Baracca in Florence. And it's a beautiful sunny day, which is really nice. I have my window open and the sun is shining. So it's like teaching, but outside in my imagination.
I'm on the first floor, so I'm up a little bit. I have my window open. The only problem, it's really strange. I've seen one mosquito, zanzara, one mosquito in all of this time. But the little tiny flies, moscerini, the little tiny flies are everywhere. They're driving me insane. It's not a far drive either.
Yeah, they drive me a bit crazy as well, the little mosquitoes. But
How
what
is
can
that?
you do?
How's that for an idiom? Modo de dire, idiom.
They drive me crazy, right?
They drive me crazy. Mi fanno impazzire.
It's a nice idiom.
It is.
And Terry, do you like sunny weather or do you like cold weather? Or do you like cloudy weather or do you like sunny weather?
I love sunny weather, but to be honest, I think that it would be easier to be inside if it were cloudy.
Yeah, although sometimes though, when I do my exercises at home, like to have like that fresh air come in, it's just you can't beat it. You can't beat the warm sunshine.
It's true. So what exercise do you do?
I do two types of exercises. I do cardio, so I run up and down my stairs for like 15 minutes. Probably need to be 20 minutes now because I'm getting fatter. And then after, I basically do like a HIIT workout. So I watch YouTube for maybe half an hour, and it's better than nothing, and I don't mind running up and down the stairs. It's secure, and nobody else lives in my apartment, so it's like it's mine. I can go crazy running up and down, so no complaints.
Very nice.
Are you able to do a little bit of exercise every now and then, Terry?
Well, I have been sick for 5 weeks, so I'm just now beginning this week. 3 times a day, in the morning before lunch and before dinner, I do my stairs, and there are 47 down and 47 up. So I do my stairs 2 times in the morning, 2 times before lunch, and 2 times before dinner.
So you just run up and down, right? And how do you find it?
The first day, I literally was like...
out of breath?
Couldn't breathe. I was having trouble breathing just normally before. So I'm trying to build my lungs again, build my lung strength. So what exercises do you usually do when we aren't in quarantine?
Anything that is related to CrossFit, squats, jumping jacks, jumping lunges, anything to do with like plank positions as well, shoulder taps. You're probably familiar to them. Well, we don't have any viewers anyway, but we can chat away about exercise. It is called asking questions. It's what we're doing. So
it is. All right, let's go on. So asking questions. Today in the focus activity, we're going to talk about question words, asking questions, and learn the QuASI trick.
QuASI, interesting. What is QuASI, Terry?
I love the QuASI trick. The QuASI trick is only for present tense or present simple or past simple questions. And it's the question word followed by the auxiliary verb, subject, and the verb in the infinitive.
Could we use it as well, though, for like maybe future simple? Like, where would you go? Like as a auxiliary verb, maybe?
But would
No.
is conditional.
Indeed. Okay, so present and past. Thanks, Terry, for clarifying.
But you know what? You can use it for conditional questions because would is the auxiliary verb.
Yeah, so where would you go? Something. Okay,
Exactly.
cool. And Terry, in English, we have different question words. We have, for example, who. We have where.
What?
Yeah, what. We have when.
Why?
We
My
have
favorite.
why.
My favorite.
Yeah, why? Absolutely. Why or how so? I think how so is something that I often use as well. Like how so? Why or
I like
why
that.
or how so? Just a little different, you know, to get our students like vary their language. Why or how so?
How in general, how often, how much, how many, how.
Yeah.
How
So
is
generally,
our
guys,
variable.
yeah, we have different uses of the question words, so maybe we can take time to explain them. So I'll just say who. So guys, we use who for people.
Well, we have a whole slide about that later.
Oh, do we? I did not know. Whoops.
All right. So I think that it's really strange we don't have any students with us right now.
It's all right. I'll be your student.
Well, we'll just let's ask the questions and then we can just talk about some of the answers, and maybe this way we can also help students who watch later to build their vocabulary.
Absolutely. And we can just have a nice chat as we always do.
So
okay.
First question, we have to put the words in order. So the first one follows the QuaSI trick, but it's really interesting because yes, the question word is what, but the question is what kind of, which is a longer version.
Interesting.
So first question, what kind of books do you like?
Ooh, good question, Terry. I love any book that is kind of related to romance. I'm a heartless romantic. I love one of my favorite books is called Me Before You. Me and Christine were talking about that yesterday, but I didn't want to give her a spoiler. Can I tell you about it?
Don't tell me how it ends.
Well, you can watch it on a movie as well. It's so beautiful. It's about a man who is in a wheelchair. He suffered a serious accident and he's basically going to die. And his carer falls in love with him. And it's a story about the book offers an insight into maybe the perspective of those that are in a wheelchair, and it brings up a lot of very, very deep themes that really make you think. I don't want to say any more, but it's well worth reading because it gives you perspectives of, you know, those who are unfortunate to be in a wheelchair, but are, you know, whose brain still functions, but the body, I think it's called quadri something. I can't think of it exactly.
Quadriplegic.
That's it. He's quadriplegic. So,
wow.
But it's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful book.
And it's Me Before You.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend watching the movie if you're not interested in reading the book.
I love to read books and then watch the movies.
That's a true fact. Terry, what kind of books do you like reading?
I love almost all kinds of books. During this quarantine, I have read 6 books. I just finished number 6. And I love legal thrillers, so stories about attorneys who get embroiled, mixed up in different situations. I also love books like the Anne Rice vampire series, because so one kind of book makes me think, and the other kind just makes me imagine, and it lets my imagination go crazy.
Hmm. Yeah, I think once like your imagination goes crazy, it just makes reading all the more worthwhile. I need to order another book actually. Is it still possible, Terry, to order books on Amazon?
Now, do you have a Kindle or do you get actual paper books?
Oh, paper books. I don't
I
want
love,
another.
I
I don't.
love
I don't want. I don't want to look at another
screen.
screen. I want to. I want to like the first thing I'm doing is when we're free is I'm going off all social media apart from
Oh,
WhatsApp. I'm taking a detox of
oh God.
Instagram of everything. If possible, WhatsApp. If possible, I just want a detox.
The only one I use Facebook because that's how
Mm,
I actually make phone calls to my family,
yeah.
and WhatsApp. But I actually closed my Twitter account. I don't have anything except Facebook and WhatsApp now, and
Yeah, and
WhatsApp for work. So
yeah, as I said, like we use different like social media forms to stay in touch with our family, but um, I I'm trying my best to just
yes,
delete any negativity or okay. So
absolutely.
Terry,
So
this is
I
gonna be like, oh yes, ask me.
no, sorry. I just, because we're talking about, the question was, what kind of books do you like? Can you think
Hmm.
of a different way we can use this question?
What type?
Okay.
What
But
type is?
so what kind of books? Maybe what kind of
Well,
food?
what kind of or music or literature or poetry? I'm a big fan of poetry as well.
Excellent. What
I
kind of poetry do you like?
um. Anything that consists of the Spanish poet Pablo Neruda. He's very famous. Spanish poetry because it's learning a different language and you get to study it. And it's just once you learn it in a different learning poetry in a different language. I think it's you can't beat it. What about you?
Hmm. I love all literature. So I love prose. I love stories written in prose. I love the Browning. What's her name? Elizabeth Barrett Browning. But I love Shakespeare, Marlowe, the classics. Um, Yeah, I just love to read. So anything, whether it's poetry or books or plays, just a big fan of reading.
Hmm. Excellent. Okay. Um.
So,
Okay. Next question. Who in your family do you really admire?
what does admire mean?
I think admire is look up to. It would be a phrasal verb or to feel a great joy for someone.
Also, perhaps a great deal of respect, would
Yeah,
you say?
respect. Absolutely. That was the word. Good one. Admire.
Okay. Um, well, the person that I most admire in my family, he's no longer with us, but is my grandfather.
Okay.
He was 24 years active duty Air Force. He raised a family of 6 children. Then he went to work for Boeing for more than 20 years. He had a Christmas tree farm, and he just had a joy for life.
Mm.
But he was probably the most honest and most and kindest person I've ever met.
Wow.
So who do you most admire in your family?
Um, I think it would be my sister Jessica. She's mentally very, very strong. She's a psychiatric nurse. She basically, I think to be a psychiatric nurse in general is something that is really, really difficult. So she helps people who have maybe mental problems. I don't want to be too specific, but you know, she works. I think, yeah, she's just very admirable, and she's very, very passionate about her job as well. And I remember one time before she came home, and she was really, really upset because one of her patients who she grew highly attached to had passed away. And like, it just shows that like she's very, like, obviously as a doctor and a nurse you cannot bring emotions home with you, but she was, you know, as I said, like, it just shows that like she's got great human qualities.
Excellent. So humanitarian, but also really, really strong inside.
Absolutely.
Wow. When does she work?
She works night shifts and day shifts. It really depends on her schedule. Sometimes one week she could do a day shift and then a night shift as well. So it really depends.
Wow. That's got to be a very difficult job. I understand why you admire her.
Absolutely.
I
And
do.
where does he do? Okay, Terry, in terms of homework in general, do you think, because homework has become a topic recently in primary school in Ireland, and they've talked about prohibiting homework in primary school, or as you say, I think you say elementary school in America?
We do.
Okay. What's your opinion? Do you think homework should be prohibited in primary school? Yes or no? I disagree with it, but
Well, I think that there is the answer isn't a simple yes or no. I think it depends on the kind of homework. So
okay.
what kind of homework are we talking about? I think that children are losing their childhood. And
Mm-hmm.
childhood is the time in which a person is a child. So I think that I see a lot of young children who return home after school and spend 3 hours doing homework, and then the
Okay.
sun is gone and they don't have time to play. So I think that it should be limited, and I think it should build with age. What do you think?
Interesting. I agree with you. However, I think, you know, it is important that kids have structure. And I think, you know, certain subjects do require homework, and that is your own native language. I think it's essential that at least there's a little bit of writing homework every day, because kids need to learn how to read and write properly. And yeah, you're right. Like, there's no point in giving absolute pointless homework. Maybe I think I'm a big believer in like projects, posters, or, you know, creative work that kind of,
Absolutely.
you know, group projects. I'm a bit more of a traditional person. I'm very anti-technology. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Do you think, also another question, do you think learning online is, well, I know we're doing it at the moment, but do you think it's a good solution, learning online in comparison to learning in person?
I think it should be the last line of teaching. I think
Mm,
that face to face is more important. But I also think, in relation to not just homework or how we teach, but what we teach to primary students, I think the focus should not be online technology. I think the focus in the primary school should be teaching teamwork, teaching
yeah.
listening skills, teaching ethics in a
Hmm.
way that is understandable, so that we can raise better children, not only smarter children.
I agree with you. And in terms of secondary school, what subjects did you consider to be essential for future development? Like, I always found subjects such as, obviously, languages are one, but I found business fascinating. You know, learning about economics and learning about marketing. I think that was essential. And obviously, maths as well is important. What subjects do you consider to be essential? That should be maybe obligatory.
I think that levels of math up
Mm-hmm.
until at least basic algebra
Mm-hmm.
for spatial reasoning. But I think also that I think history is absolutely essential
I
because
agree.
if a person can't understand the history, then they probably can't understand how society became as it is. And so as things happen, they might not have a good perspective about how it became how it is and how it could change.
Absolutely. I agree with you in a sense. Absolutely.
So what the next question we have here, I think I want to ask not how the question is how do you turn on the TV, but I think a better question is how often should children watch TV?
Hardly ever. I think there's a lot of like negative. Well, it depends. But they have to be limited. I mean, we were fortunate growing up. I grew up in the best decade, which was the '90s, which was only technology being introduced, but everything was emphasized on ride your bike, or go outside when it's sunny, or play hopscotch. Anything simple and creative. Like we had, well, I can say that I had a wonderful childhood. Like all the time I was like, my parents were like, especially in Ireland when it's sunny, like technology is completely prohibited.
Yeah.
So
Well, in the 70s, when I was a very
wow.
young child, um, we were always, if it was sunny, we were always, well, not even sunny. In Seattle, it's rarely sunny. If it wasn't raining or too cold, we were always outside. This was before home computers. So I understand um, it was difficult with my children because at their father's house, um, they were always in front of a computer game or the TV. And
Mm,
at my house, I was always, let's go skateboard, let's go climb that hill.
hmm.
So
I
different
think,
perspectives.
yeah, I think like I'm just going to be critical of those who, like, if you've got kids and your way of entertaining the kid is just by putting on an episode of Peppa Pig or something, just to entertain the kid. It's something that I'm not a fan of, because, you know, I think before technology, we didn't have to worry about, how to waste time. And unfortunately, now with this technology, it's just like the way of, like waiting for a bus. Your neck is down and you're like just reading constant social media posts that are completely pointless. I mean, I do it. I'm the sheep in the system, but um, yeah, as I said, the TV is not a babysitter.
Exactly. So the last question here on our list, question word, quasi, why do we study English? My
Mm.
question to you is what languages do you know or what languages do you study?
I study Spanish. I want to study Italian, and before I studied Portuguese. And you?
I studied and I study Italian. I
Okay.
studied French, but French and Italian together confused me because and made me make many mistakes. Because, for example, something simple in French, the article le,
Mm-hmm.
L-E, is masculine singular,
Mm.
whereas the same le in Italian is feminine plural. And so there's
Yeah.
many little things like that that caused me to make mistakes. So I stopped studying French.
Yeah, you can. It's easy to. It's really easy to apply your level language L2 and L3 when you're trying to speak another language. I agree.
Oh, so we have the questions. all of these follow the QuaSI structure because they are present simple.
Mm-hmm.
And we did already talk about the question words. So, did we have someone? Someone has joined us. Please
Hello.
tell us your name and where you are from. Um, over here in the comments, tell us your name and where you are from, and help us to answer these questions.
Yep.
So, who who is your best friend?
Yeah. Is that directly for me, or is that just an example, Terry?
That's for
Okay, so
you.
my best. Ooh, it's a good one, Terry. I've many close friends. I don't know if I can name one specifically, because I've traveled in so many places. I'd say my best friend is Antonio, who lives in Alicante. Basically because we met. He was my neighbor, and we both moved to the same building at the same time. But I was living in the top floor, and he was living in the bottom floor. And we just clicked immediately. We were like, "So, where are you from?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm from Spain," but his mom was from Ireland, so we have that kind of friendship connection. And yeah, it was just a natural friendship from there. And you, who is your best friend, and why, and how did
My
you meet?
my best friend is Debbie. We met when we were 12 years old, so that's
Oh, nice.
14 years ago.
Wow.
I had just moved to a new neighborhood and I was crossing the park to go home, and we met and became friends. And now she lives in Australia and I live in Italy, and we still chat at least once a week. So,
It's good.
so your answer, Antonio, mine, Debbie. So who is obviously for people.
Yes.
All
And
right.
to our viewer as well, who is your best friend, or whoever is watching us? We're happy to have one person anyway. But
All right.
the viewer keeps going from 0 to 1, so maybe they're coming back and forth.
Well, maybe it's technical difficulties. So, all right.
I've had plenty of them, don't worry.
So, what is for, let's see, how many what questions? What is your favorite food?
That's one. What kind of books do you like? And we also use it, I think, Terry, for time, right? What time is it?
What time is it? But let's not confuse what time is it with the other.
Okay. Okay. So what is
Um,
your what is for oh, we've got 2 viewers now. Yay. Welcome,
Tell us
guys.
your name and where you are from, and help us answer these questions.
Come on, you can do it. Andiamo, forza, forza. Tu puoi. Tu puoi. Come on.
All right. So who is for people? I would say what is for things?
That's correct. What is for
Food,
things?
books, movies.
Mm, absolutely.
Where do you live?
Yeah. So where is used for location or place?
Right. And when? Now, your question, what time is it? What is a different way to ask I don't know, what time is it?
That's the only thing, I think, no?
Not when do you study?
Okay. Cool. You can say what time do you study, but it's better to say when. Like when, because when refers like can be more to, you can refer when for like in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, whereas I think what time is specifically asking for the 24-hour clock. Yeah, I understand.
All right. Why is for why did you move to Italy?
Huh. Good question. I moved to Italy because I was in Granada and I loved the south of Spain. But unfortunately, in my job, it was unstable, and my boss was let's just say we didn't see eye to eye. So I decided that I wanted a change. And before I worked with my English school in Sicily in Palermo, and I had a really good experience. And because I don't really need to practice, well, I need to maintain my Spanish, but I just wanted to have a bit more stability. So I did the interview and I decided to come back. And why did you move to Florence, Terry? Why Florence specifically?
Uh, well, I wanted to move to Siena. I was in love with Siena.
Oh, me too.
And my godmother, I'm Catholic, so my godmother said, "Oh, there is a priest at one of the local parishes who is from Italy." So she introduced me, and I told Father Bruno, "I want to move to Siena." And he said, "You can move to Italy, but you can't go to Siena. You have to go to Florence, and I will introduce you to some of my friends so you are not alone."
Oh, that's really nice.
So I arrived, and now I will never leave. So why?
You've Well, you know, just talking about Siena, have you been there? Of course.
Oh, so many times.
It's phenomenal. And do you not notice how amazing it is? I don't know what you might have noticed about the city, but it's the way that people hang out the washing that makes me fall in love with the city. I know it's really unusual, but it's the way it's so classical, you know? It's so
It
I don't
is.
know, I fell in love with the way people hung out their washing.
The history of Siena and the way that the streets wind and
Mm,
curve and one to the other and up and down the hill, and it's the different quarters. There's nothing about Siena that is not just fabulous. And it's more medieval than
yeah,
Florence. So, but if
but
we ask this question, why, I'm asking for your
reason.
reason.
Would you
So,
move Oh, sorry. Would you
go
move
ahead.
to? Would you visit Siena again when the time is right?
Oh, I usually go to Siena every year for my birthday.
Oh, nice. When is
I
your birthday?
usually, it was in March. I
Oh,
didn't go
sugar.
anywhere this year.
Sorry. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a
So,
bit too late. Oh,
I wanted to talk about which because Italians often use which when they should use what. And the
mm,
reason is in Italian, um, for many questions, you wouldn't say che or cose, you
mm,
would say quale, which
mm,
is which is which
mm.
is. And so that's why they often use which. But in English, which is when you have limited choices. So I
Mm,
might ask Paul, what do you want for dinner?
mm.
Could be anything. But if the choices are limited, which do you want for dinner? Chicken or steak?
Thanks, Terry. I'll use that for future reference. I didn't know that. Yeah, makes sense. Like, which do you prefer, chicken or beef? Yeah, because you're limited within your choice. Very nicely done.
Exactly. Thank you. So how about how?
Yeah, how about how? How is for manner. I think that's the best way of saying because we can use how with with price, with countable, uncountable, with many and much. We can use it as a way of finding out about transport, like means as well. It has quite a variation.
It does. So condition, mode, or manner, I would say all of
Mm,
those are really good. Yeah. Now, how often, when we add that second word, whether it's how much, how many, how often, then it
yeah.
becomes very specific.
Mm.
How often do you visit Ireland?
Not enough. I go twice a year.
Twice a year.
How often do you visit America?
I visit America once every 2 or 3 years.
Man, that's like once in a blue moon. Oof.
It is. It
And
is.
is it
No,
hard?
I prefer that they come to visit me.
Okay. And do they?
My mother has come once, and my sons, we were planning for them to come in May, but
Maybe September.
maybe next year. We will see.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It is what it is. Okay, so the quasi trick. So we just talked about the different question words, how to use them, and now we'll talk again about the quasi trick. So the quasi, QU, question word. What are they, Paul?
Question word, auxiliary, subject, infinitive.
Okay, so what are the question words?
Where, when, why, how, who, how often, how much, how many, how so. Stop.
All right, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there
Okay,
are many.
auxiliary verb. Your auxiliary verb depends on what time, what tense. So usually for the quasi trick, you can only use it for present and past simple or conditional. Because to use the infinitive, you would not be able, if your question is continuous, if your question is perfect, you will use a different auxiliary verb, and so it won't be the infinitive. So if your auxiliary verb will be do or will be a modal. When can I eat lunch?
Am I to respond?
I
You can
can
eat
eat
lunch
lunch after the lessons. All right.
after lessons. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I suppose if anybody's going to watch this lesson, there is a trick. We don't use an auxiliary verb when the question word is the subject. That I know that's a bit difficult, but we might as well introduce it. So, for example, who ate my sandwich? Okay, who ate my sandwich? This is when the question word is the subject, and we don't use an auxiliary verb.
So that's not the quasi structure exactly.
No, but it's just something that people should be aware about because, especially with the question word "who," who made or who wrote the Harry Potter books. As I said, the subject. When the subject is the question word, we don't use an auxiliary. Just putting that out there to people.
Okay. I think, Paul, something really important that goes exactly with what you're saying is when the question word and verb are followed by a noun, if the
Exactly.
question is not an action, if the question is not an action word, like eat, go, watch, then it's not an auxiliary verb. It becomes, when there's only one, it remains a primary verb.
Exactly.
So that, I don't know if we have a special name for that structure. It would be QUVS. No, doesn't work.
It's even like, when your students ask you what is like the form of the passive, and I always just say the object, then the verb to be, past participle, because there's no like subject, because you have to say object,
It's true. Because the object becomes the subject.
Exactly. So there's no like concrete, but it's important for them to know for sure.
Okay. So looking at just this quasi structure, all right, just the quasi structure, your auxiliary verb will either be do or it will be a modal. Can, could, would, might. And it's because all of the other verbs that can be auxiliary cannot be used with the infinitive.
True. So the
So,
question reads, why do we study English? So why is the question word, do is the auxiliary, we is the subject, study is the verb, infinitive, and English is the noun, as Terry was saying.
and to use these same kinds of questions with a modal, when can we watch the movie?
Yeah. When can we go for a run?
Yes, when can we go running?
It's the
I
first thing
know,
I want to do.
I know, I'm waiting. I'm waiting just, I don't run anymore, but I really want to go for a
For a walk.
long walk. I'm
Me
dying.
too.
You see how pale I am? I'm a ghost.
Maybe in May, middle of May or something.
I hope so. Okay, so let's make questions with singular nouns so that we can practice the third person verbs, which is always problematic.
For sure.
All
So
right.
it says when movie starts. So it says when does the movie start? Because it's the third person and it's present simple.
Now, why not when do the movie start?
Because
The
movie is the third person. If it was plural, you could say when do the movie, well, it sounds unusual, but when do the movies start, I guess, if you're going to the cinema and you're asking about a number of different movies that you want to watch. Like when do they start or when do the movies start?
All right. So that third person singular.
Mm-hmm.
Where does your teacher live?
Mm-hmm. That's number one. How often does John speak on the phone?
What music or what kind of music does Anne like?
Very good. And where does the race finish?
And why does, oh, this is a strange one. Why does it rain in the spring? So in
Mm,
this case, rain is not the subject, like the race, like
mm,
Anne. Rain is the verb. And so
mm,
we still have to have a subject. We
mm,
use it when
mm,
there is no subject. We
mm.
use it in place of the subject. Why does it
Rain.
rain in the spring?
Could we say in spring as well, though? Why does it rain in spring?
I think both are okay. I
Yeah,
don't,
because
I
in
don't think
summer
we
and
need the
winter.
article.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I never use article. Well, in the spring, in spring. Interesting.
I would say I love going for long walks in spring, but it's
Me
okay
too.
also in the spring. I think this is kind of one of those like you can choose based on which sounds better.
Yeah, like at the weekend, on the weekend.
Exactly. British
Interesting.
English, American English, that one.
True. The screen I can't see. Just for a second.
No.
No.
Now?
Yes. Now, yes.
Okay. So, Paul, who
hmm
is your favorite movie star?
Ooh, Morgan Freeman is my favorite movie
Oh,
star.
I love Morgan Freeman.
And you?
Well, I was going to say my favorite movie star is Johnny Depp,
Johnny
but
Depp.
I love Morgan Freeman too.
Hmm.
Uh, I love Johnny Depp because of the variety of different kinds of movies.
Mm-hmm.
How Morgan Freeman? How do you
Mm-hmm.
spell his name?
So it'd be M-O or G-A-N-F or E-E-M-A-N.
Fabulous.
Thanks.
So in Italian, they would say come si scrive? How do you
Yes.
write his name? we don't ask, how do you write? We ask, how do you spell?
It's also good for, sorry to intrude you, how do you repeat, or how do you pronounce, how do you say? It's a useful classroom language that they could know about as well. How do you spell? How do you say? So just
So would you
useful.
say, how do you spell it, or how do you spell that?
It depends. How do you spell it, or how do you spell, like if they're pointing? Like how do you? I think it probably is better, but how do you spell that? Both.
Good. So how do you spell it? How do you say it? Good. Do you know where Morgan Freeman lives? Third person again, lives.
He lives in America, but I wouldn't know where exactly. Would you know?
I don't know, but I believe he probably lives somewhere in California.
Okay, California
Yeah.
sounds. I've never been to America. Only on a stopover flight. I checked into Philadelphia airport and then Miami. But oh my god, I think I wanted to stay. I was going on a stopover flight, and I was like looking at Miami, and I was like, what a phenomenal city. When I was flying over America, it was like, wow, you know, it was a big moment for me.
Wow. Yeah. I have never visited Ireland except for, as you, a stopover flight. I was coming home from Iraq, and
Okay, wow.
we arrived in Ireland in the middle of the night. And
Mm,
what impressed me the most, in the airport, the entire wall, very high, very tall, was all glass.
mm,
And as the sun came up, Alba, at dawn, um, I understood why it is called the Emerald Isle, because I
mm.
watched 15 different colors of green as the sun came. It just,
Yeah.
everything was, oh, but spectacular. I can't
What
wait. I want
what
to visit.
airport? I think it was Shannon, because in Shannon in Limerick, it was either Dublin, Limerick, or Cork. If it wasn't in Dublin, then it would have been Shannon Airport in Limerick.
I think it was Shannon. In fact, it
Yeah.
was Shannon.
Yeah, because there we have Ireland has a special connection with America that we can always do the security check before flying. It's great. We're one of the few countries that has that agreement. Um, so it was nice. Before flying to America, I was able to do my check in by the American security in Ireland, but they were really friendly, actually. You know, I was really nervous, but they were like, "Where are you flying to?" And I'm like, "Brazil." So when they knew I was going to Brazil, there were not many questions. It was just go.
Very nice. So I want to ask this question of you before our time runs out, because I do also love Morgan Freeman. In
Yeah.
your opinion, what are his best movies?
Oh, number one, I can only think of that comes off the top of my head: Shawshank Redemption,
Mm,
and it's something that I intend on watching soon. It's just outstanding, that movie.
it is. It's on my Netflix to watch list again. So
Me too.
for me too. So, all right. So I think that we will leave the questions at that, given that we have just 1 minute left.
Hmm.
So let's do a quick refresher again. So what are the question words? Question word
Who?
tennis. Are you ready? What?
Yeah. What's your name?
No, question word.
What for thing? I'm a bit lost here. Where for place?
Okay.
How for manner?
Who for person?
Um, when for specific time? Which for preference? And limited choice.
Ah, nice. How often?
For adverbs of frequency.
For frequency, exactly. All
Thanks a
right.
million.
that's it for our time today. So
Ciao, guys.
if you're watching this in the future, I hope you find something really useful and be
See
safe
you
out
soon.
there.
Bye.